of, what is it called again? Well, everybody knows it, and if I had I could look it up easily, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But he wasn't. He was.
I would like to begin this interview. We're going to start right now.
Okay.
And tell me your full name, please.
Edith Fierst.
Edith Nudell Fierst.
Yeah, Udell was my maiden name.
Nudell was your maiden name. And
UDE.
where were you born?
I was born in Manhattan.
In Manhattan.
Yeah.
What year were you born?
1925.
1925. So that means that today you're 92 years old. 93.
More than. That's right.
Wow. And we are going to spend most of this interview talking about your late husband, Herbert.
Good.
Can you tell me when he passed away?
Well, I would say, I think it's about 1990. Well, about, I can't remember right now. Okay. 94, maybe.
94.
Yeah.
When was Herbert born?
1914.
1940. So there was 9 years difference between the two of you.
Right.
That's a big difference, especially. Now, where was Herbert born?
He was born in the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
Yeah.
What kind of family did he come from?
He came from a very Jewish-oriented family, and they were very, very proud of him, which was probably excessive, because they were always, he became so self-centered as a result, I think. However, his grandfather was an Orthodox rabbi in Montreal, and he had a great deal of respect for this grandfather. His father was immigrated to the United States in 1900.
From where?
Luxembourg.
Luxembourg?
Is it Luxembourg?
Alsace-Lorraine?
No, it's, I should remember it. From, I can't remember the name of the country. I used to know it well, and my children know. I might be able to get it from them. But his grandfather became a rabbi, the chief rabbi in Canada, really.
Montreal, you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind? Did he have brothers or sisters, Herbert?
Yeah, two, one of each.
Was he the oldest or youngest, or Herbert?
Yeah.
He was, what number was he?
Number one.
Number one.
Yeah.
And you said that his parents were so proud of him. Why were they so proud of him?
Well, he did so well at everything, and I heard from the beginning. He went to Harvard from public school here, and he did so well he got into Harvard. And he also had they had a bar mitzvah for him in Israel. He went to Jerusalem and had his bar mitzvah, and it was a big deal.
In 1930? In 1920?
20-something else. Where was it? 1920 something, I don't remember.
So he was born in 1914?
Yeah.
So in 1927?
That's probably right. I didn't know him then.
Of course, but they traveled
to Israel.
You were 3 years old.
I guess so, yeah. He went and he had a bar mitzvah.
That's very rare for that time.
It was. And the family was so proud of him because he did so well. He was always, whatever he touched in those days, turned into a wonderful thing. I mean, and so what did he do that made him? Well, lots of people. They took him to Israel for his bar mitzvah.
Was he from a well-off family?
Not really. His father came here as an immigrant and opened a business of manufacturing men's clothes, which is what my father did too. My father was born in this country, but so his father and his parents were more Jewishly oriented than mine was.
Were they religious? Did they keep,
They were religious,
did they keep
but
the Sabbath?
yes and no. I mean, they
They
weren't.
kept kosher in the house, of course, probably.
They did, and they sent kosher food to him at Harvard.
So, did Herbert ever tell you about growing up? So he grew up in the Bronx,
Well, the beginning.
and then where did they move?
Then they lived in Mount Vernon. They bought a house in Mount Vernon. And
Washington?
yeah. And, you know,
Okay,
right near the
so
city.
They left New York.
Left New York.
Yeah.
Well, they were just outside of Washington.
Yeah, Mount Vernon. That's where. Yeah.
That's right.
Did he ever talk to you about dealing with anti-Semitism in high school or stuff like that? Or?
Oh, yeah, he was very strong about it. He didn't have any difficulty standing up to it.
Did he ever tell you about certain events that happened to him while, or
Yes.
as a child,
Well,
high school, college?
right, yeah. Well, he obviously did very well in high school because he got into Harvard. And you know how hard that is. It was. And then he had a very good friend named Oscar Davis, who was a judge later on in life, and who never married. And he used to come to us every Sunday, and he became a very close friend of ours, and my children adored him because he always brought them presents and bought them refreshments, lunch on Sunday, and so forth. He was great. In fact, I could show you his.
Just a minute. I don't want you to get up, and we're not going to do pictures now. We're going to do it
Okay.
all after.
All right.
Yeah. We'll do it after.
Well, I know just where the pictures are of Oscar, who died.
My question is, did Herbert ever talk to you about dealing with anti-Semitism on a personal level
Oh yes,
in high school, Harvard? Can you tell me something?
more about high school.
High school.
Yeah, I don't think it was much of a problem in
Harvard.
Harvard.
What does he, when he finishes high school, when he's 18 years old, it is 1932?
Probably.
1932.
And he went to law school,
Where?
Yale.
He went to Yale.
Yeah, he could have gone to Harvard, but he decided it seems to me there was some discussion with Harvard about it, but he didn't go there. He went to
Yale.
Yale.
And he studied law. Is that correct? At Yale University.
Right, Yale Law School.
That's quite unique at the time for a Jew to go to Yale.
Well, not that much.
No?
No. Well, quite a few. I mean, Harvard is where they mostly wanted to go, but Herbert did to Harvard College, and he wanted to go to Yale. And he went to talk to Brandeis and asked him what he thought he could do to be of use to the Jews. Should he live in Brandeis or in, whether he should go to Brandeis or whether he should.
Yale or Harvard?
Yale or Harvard. And he decided to go to Yale. And
So how long is law school?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
And he finished the 4 years in Yale?
Yes.
And so when he finishes law school, it's 1936.
Yep. That's right.
Right? The
Yeah.
New Deal, the Depression is starting to come apart, it's starting to end, kind of. What does he do after he finishes his 4 years at Yale?
He started to work as a lawyer.
Where?
Well, he first he had several jobs over the years, and one of them was I can't remember because it was before I came in the picture. but I should remember.
It's okay. It's okay.
I've heard of it many times, I'm sure. But anyway, he decided that he would not, that he went to Yale Law School, and then he got a job, and he came to Washington. And I met him. He was in New York, living in New York.
What year did you guys meet?
Just about to come to it.
Okay.
He came to Washington. He got a job there, and I met him, and we got married, and I came to Washington. And we got an apartment, which was in a nice apartment house, and so I mean we got married pretty close to when we met in December, and we got married in April.
What year did you get married?
1947.
1947.
I think, yes.
Can you tell me, before we get to that, can you tell me about, was he in the Army during the war?
Yes, he was.
Can you tell me about what he did in the Army and where he was?
He did crazy things.
Please.
I mean, they did things like, well, first of all, he did his testing, or not testing, but training. And he went to, I've forgotten exactly, but.
What did he do in the Army?
Well, he did a lot of things.
Tell me one thing that he did.
Well, the first thing was he did his training in, I've forgotten which of the things he did it in, but anyway, he.
Was he in the Army? Was he in the Navy? Was he in the Marines?
He was in the Army.
Was
Army.
he an officer? What?
Well, he became an officer. He had a lot of talent, and
well, he's a lawyer. So
yeah.
What are they going to do with him?
They make him an officer, and then they train him in military government. That's
military government. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Keep on, please.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just looking here. Yeah.
And they thought that he would have to do. I mean, he had to do things that he had to be trained for, like military government, after he got in the Army. And so he did. He did that for quite a while.
Was he in action? Was he in Europe? Was he in the Pacific?
He was in Europe. And he was in action, but not, well, he on the way down into, he was trained in Panama. And
Panama, okay.
And on the way down, he was, I think he was trained right away. I can't remember it all, but I did certainly hear a lot about it. He went down to the Panama Canal, and that's where he was trained a lot, and he was there for a long time. And after the training was over, they set him in the area of the Panama Canal, and he was trained on how to get ships through the canal and so forth, which he liked. But I think he was glad to get back in the Army and get into Europe.
Do you know where he was in Europe? Do you know what he did in Europe?
He was in a lot of places. Let me see.
Could you be more specific?
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay.
He went to the Army, and he was, I'm not sure that I can remember exactly,
okay. That's okay.
But I'll keep talking anyway.
No, that's okay, I'm just...
I remember hearing that it was very funny because they asked him so many crazy questions or things to do let's see, what? He was very concerned about the Jews when the war was on. Very concerned.
Did he ever tell you about stuff that he saw in Europe?
Well, no more so than one saw in the newspapers and the or other things that were happening, but but I did see it. I did hear a lot about it, and
so I have a question to ask you.
yeah,
I'm here to talk to you about your husband's connection
to
the War of Independence in Palestine and in Israel in 1947-48.
yeah. Well, the war was over by then. Our war. Hi, how are you? You want me to come to dinner pretty soon? Hmm?
They do? Yeah.
I
okay.
think so, but don't worry about it. You want to have dinner here?
I'm fine. I'm gonna.
Okay.
We're going to talk now about the time that you're already with him. You guys are already married.
Okay.
The World War II is over.
Yeah.
The war in Israel is just beginning. What does he do? What do you guys? What's happening?
Well, he had he was very much involved with Israel. Been there many times by then already. And I should remember some of these things. I probably have. This is
What's that?
something he wrote about his experiences.
Okay, can I see it?
Sure. Let me hold on to it. Let me find the beginning. Is what. Here, I'll give you this. And I was just looking through it before you came.
Mm-hmm.
But he was very interested in the DPs. And in fact, he worked...
The DPs.
DPs.
Yeah.
He worked for the State Department on that.
Okay, so when did he start working for the State Department?
During the war, I think.
Okay. 4, 5.
And he did several things that made a difference. I should remember them. I've forgotten how we happened to mention David Popper. Or I mentioned him.
I mentioned him.
You mentioned him. Oh.
These are like... Okay, I'm gonna stop for a second.
Sure.
I want to...
Used to have cocktail parties and I'd hire a waitress.
Okay.
And the woman she hired mostly, was named Paula. Anyway, Paula was the mother of Henry Kissinger. So, and she would come, and Herb would have friends come who were working at the UN then. And she thought that all his friends, who were mostly from Harvard, where he'd gone to college and so forth, she wanted to tell them how she has this wonderful son. And of course, she had a wonderful son who certainly made it then. And years later, we knew somebody who knew Kissinger. And when Kissinger became some age or other, they had a party for him, and we went. And I told her that I knew his mother, and how phenomenal she was. She used to come to my mother's parties, and she was a wonderful canapé maker, and she would be very, very nice and very, very competent. And she was always telling us how great Henry Kissinger was, which he was, and he certainly proved it before long. But I met him. I guess Herb must still have been alive. We went to a party and met him and told him about his mother, how great she was.
I'm trying to get your attention to 1947.
That's the year we were married.
And it was also the year that the United Nations partitioned Palestine.
Yeah. I remember we were driving through Central Park, I think in a taxi. Or maybe anyway, we had a radio on. And they were talking about this. And I know that Herb was very, very pleased about it. And he did several things, which I should remember, that made a difference. He, let's see, what can they be?
Take your time.
All right. Well, we were talking a little while ago about what's his name, the one who followed this with great interest, and David Popper. Did you ask me about him?
Yes, I did.
Yes, okay. Well, I knew a lot about David Popper, and he did something which was very impressive and important at the time. What do you have that he did?
I'm looking at it right now, but it's all written here, and I'm just trying to get this article is very, very long and very constructive, and it's just it's memories that it's kind of hard for me to grasp all of it, but I'm trying to find here where your name and Herb's name is mentioned for the first time, so I can take it from there. But this is just this is insane. I'm looking here at a book called The Puzzle of Palestine. Does that book name ring a bell to you?
No.
The Puzzle of Palestine. I carefully pulled it out, breaking off a piece of the faded blue cover in the process. I had never heard about this book, even though I quickly saw the author was indeed my grandfather, David Popper. David Popper writing in 1938 about the demands for the Jewish homeland in the Middle East. As I flipped through the first few pages, I learned that he had written it after college when he worked as a researcher at the Foreign Policy Association, an educational organization started in 1918 in the international strip of the League of Nations. Eleanor Roosevelt had been upon. Okay, the book captivated me, and I clashed with many. Not knowing the Jewish.
Who was writing this?
Popper.
Oh.
What's his name?
David.
David Popper wrote this, and I'm reading an article that his grandson wrote.
Oh.
At the time Papa's 13th birthday, he came around. The family, White Plains. Okay,
That grandson, and I was there when it happened. I had a lot to do with Nathaniel. He also went to Harvard. One night, I think Herb was still living, and he was going to go along to some dinner. And he couldn't that night for some reason. And so they invited Herb, who couldn't go either. So I went. And I got to know Nathaniel very well over the next few years. And it's a funny thing that happened. He met somebody who was part of a Jewish thing. And he, I can't remember exactly what happened there, but he was interested in being Jewish, and he thought his father wasn't. And his father wasn't any longer. He felt that they were not Jewish religiously. They were Jewish, he and his mother, Florence and David. But when they were in Europe, they were in Switzerland, and they had a bar mitzvah there for Nathaniel. And let's see what happened then. Anyway, he.
So, Popper and your husband Herb were colleagues at the State Department.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so here it says, Edith was interested in my work. This is the grandson.
Yeah.
Nathaniel, right? Edith was interested in my work at Forward.
Yes.
It's a newspaper, right?
Yes.
After a long career as a high-powered Washington lawyer, she had taken up a number of Jewish causes. Herb had been an unapologetic Zionist during his tyranny at the his tenure at the State Department. When he moved to the law firm, later in his career, he took on a top leadership positions in AIPAC and the American Jewish Committee. After various alumni...
Are you speaking about Herb or
Herb.
Not Nathaniel.
Herb.
Yeah, okay.
He was active in AIPAC?
Yeah, well, sort of, yes.
Okay.
You know, there was some
Hold on.
question about how people
After
felt.
various alumni officers gave their spiels as our half-eaten plates, Edith asked, "You do know what your grandfather did for Israel, don't you?" And he said, "No." He said, "No." I told her, "I had no idea." That's funny," she said, "but not entirely surprising. I would say that he might lay a curtain call in my eyes. Da, 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 da. Next time I came to D.C., I visited Edith in her Chevy Chase home. Over a plate of cookies, she took me back to the autumn of 1947.
Yeah.
He's writing about you.
Yeah, I recognize the name.
The autumn of 1947, when the United Nations General Assembly was preparing for a vote on whatever to partition Palestine. The result would determine the fate of the Jewish state. At that time, my grandfather, Popper, recently sprung from Army intelligence, was a minor person in the State Department's UN delegation. As the vote on the partition neared, Papa visited Herb's office and with hushed urgency asked him to take a walk outside. He told Herb that the Arabists at the State Department had succeeded in getting enough votes that the proposition won't go pass.
Yeah.
Herb immediately passed my grandfather's tip to the Jewish assistant to President Truman, who was pro-partition, and also recommended that his own boss, General John Hildering, be pro-partition, lead the talks. By the time Herb returned to his office, Truman had made a personal change. Had it not been for General Hildering, there might not have been in other. Okay, so basically, hold on. Basically, your husband worked for the State Department?
Yes, he did.
What did he do for the State Department? Do you know?
Yes, he did various things.
Okay.
If I can remember them, I will tell you.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, but when he first became, let's see, it's funny.
It's okay. When was the first time that you and Herb went to Israel? Do you remember? The first time.
First time, Herb had been many times. The first time that I went was after we were married. Yeah.
After the war?
Oh, yeah.
After the War of Independence in Israel.
Yes.
Was Israel already an independent state when you went there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can tell you one thing that was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
This is in Washington. The night that the Jewish state was declared, after the whatever the fighting,
partition.
yeah. I was here in Washington, and there was an announcement that the Jewish state had a headquarters on right near that. Well, they had a place on Wisconsin.
Like an embassy.
Pardon?
Like an embassy, but it wasn't an embassy yet.
That's right.
Right. Like a mission house.
It was yes. It was on. It wasn't Wisconsin Avenue. It was some other place.
Okay.
And the Jews all came out there, and they were so excited. That includes me. And I remember that we heard what was his name, the head of the Jewish state,
Ben-Gurion.
Ben-Gurion, say that it's funny because I knew it so well at one time. Now I can't remember.
It's okay. It's okay.
But I'll keep trying.
Yeah.
The Ben-Gurion said that in making the declaration about the state, that there would be that there would be a Jewish state, and that everybody was just thrilled about it, including me. And I don't know where Herb was at the time, but not there. But I knew so many of these people.
Sure.
That over time, like.
What would you say that was Herb's biggest contribution to the state of Israel? What was his biggest contribution that you can remember?
Well, there were several of them, and that's what's bothering me, that I can't remember them.
Okay, it's okay.
But I might be able to find some record of it.
And these documents that you gave me, are these documents?
Yeah. When Herb died, he left me his papers, of course, and I gave them to our son David, who saved them for me. And when I called, after you called me, he came over with this pile of papers.
I was wondering if we can take these papers back to Israel with us to put them in the archive.
Of course.
Would that be okay?
I think so, unless you think I should keep a copy.
What's that?
Maybe you could keep a copy for me.
Well, actually, maybe we can speak to your son after this, and maybe he can send me a copy. Maybe he has another copy and he can send it to us so that you'll have this.
Yeah, but somebody will have to type a copy of that.
Yeah. We'll ask him. Him because there's a lot of stuff here that he has written.
Yeah, there is.
And I can't really take pictures of it because there's tons and tons and tons.
Yeah, and there's let me call David and see if he's there. I haven't.
No, we'll call him. Okay.
Yeah, I'll call him. Let's see, where David?